Hi, this is Claudia Filos with the Center for Linux Studies, and I'm here today with Gregory, Nagy, and Keystone, and we're delighted to be holding the ninth session of our office hours for the 2016 spring edition of HeroesX. So thanks for joining us, Keith and Greg.
Yay, glad to be here, as always.
Wonderful to see everybody.
Yes. Greg, we're delighted to have you back because you have been away.
Yes, and it's so wonderful to see all the new posts. I was particularly moved by the post of Chris Foca, who talks about the long-term effect of reading these hours concerning the ancient Greek hero. So just want to express my personal appreciation for what Chris has written.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for mentioning that post. Actually, one of the things I wanted to bring up, well, first let me respond to one of the things that Christopha, how are we going to say that? Christopha?
I think it's, I'm guessing that it's a Greek name, and it might be Phocas, but anyway, Chris.
So, okay,
Chris
great,
F.
okay. So one of the things that this person mentions at the end of their post is that they're eager to really continue thinking about this content long term. And so one of the things that's really important for us is to let people know about a companion project called Hour 25. And I think everyone in the community this week has received an invitation to join Hour 25. Greg, yay! We lost you briefly. It's okay.
Yes, but I'm back. I hate to tell you what I did.
No, it's okay. So I was just letting everybody know that we had sent out their invitations for them to join Hour 25 this week. Yes. And we had many people join, but we still know that many people will join in the weeks to come. And I really want to encourage everyone to do that. Just to clarify, so Hour 25 is an open-ended learning community where people can continue engaging with the content from HeroesX. So let's say maybe you didn't get through all the content in HeroesX and you'd like to continue. Hour 25 is a place to do that. Let's say you do get through all the content, but you do want to continue reading other content. Hour 25 is a place for that. We have discussion boards. We have community study groups. We're creating new content. We have ways to do participate in projects in collaboration with the Center for Linux Studies. We have ways to participate in discussion forums. I could go on and on. So I just encourage everyone to check out the website. Look in their mailbox. You know, if you don't see it, check in your spam folder. Sometimes something like that goes into there. So it's just an important message. We'll be sending more, and I just hope more people will join us.
It's amazing. I've dipped in a little bit, as you know, Claudia, and it's a marvel. There's way more than I could engage in, I think.
Yeah. Honestly, it really is. It kind of is a marvel, actually. I am sort of still dazzled by the fact that the community that generated during the first run of this project is still growing, and those relationships are still, changing and growing. And that so many topics we've covered, so many things we've read together, but that doesn't mean that new people aren't welcome. I mean, totally welcome. We want you to join us. If you've been reading posts and haven't commented, we'd love you to comment. But honestly, if you just want to read posts and read blog posts and watch videos and not post anything or anything, that's okay too. Whatever you're comfortable doing. Our community is there to, I hope, provide something of interest, right?
Well, there's always interest. May I give the example of this wonderful person whose name I can't pronounce because it's capital C, capital C, A-U-S, which I think might be for Australia. I'm not sure. But anyway, the title of this posting is Sipi Tau, and it has to do with the Tonga expression that corresponds to the Maori expression for various moments in a war dance. And talk about resourcefulness. There was this one word in one clip that we used where nobody could make out what the word was. It was inaudible. But our friend here, shall we say, deciphered the word and the meaning of the word, which had to do with Tonga war cries.
Right. Right, which is so helpful. And, we've had experiences like that in the past where community members have really added to the content of the project. And that happens not just, at moments like this, but I'm thinking about the ways that our community members can use the annotation tools, the kind of discussions that we have on the discussion board, that turn into our office hours, that turn into your own thinking and my own thinking. I know those have really been changed by the conversations in HeroesX.
Mm-hmm. And you're producing a new version of, or like a, how do I want to say, like the way that certain source book texts are, have the core vocab inserted throughout. You're doing, like Hour 25 is producing another one of those to add to the collection.
Exactly.
I should say updating. I think Greg started that project a while ago. Is it Antigone or is it, no, it's Medea this time.
No, it's the Medea. It was the Antigone, and it's so gratifying to me that these two amazing dramas have come back. First the Antigone and now the Medea, and it all has to do with the activism of the people who are participating in Hour 25.
Right, yeah. And so that's just an example of the kind of collaborative project that we do together that people can get involved in. If you go to Hour 25, people can learn more about those. Greg, I did want to think about something else in response to that post that you just mentioned. There was something else I wanted to say about that.
Oh, this is the capital C, capital AU, right?
Yeah. Let me see if I can...
Was it about the war cries themselves? Oh, I bet it was about the interchange of values.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So here's a situation where if you're on the outside looking in, you can pretty much figure out that the Maori tradition and the Tonga tradition are somehow related to each other. But when you're inside these traditions, one or the other, they can be viewed more simply as rival traditions. And I'm fascinated with situations where something that is pretty close to something else for the outsider is almost alien to people who are inside the traditions, because in a sense, the more something is similar to you, the more rivalry there can be.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so as we think about ancient Greek song culture, does that have resonances for things like local traditions about local traditions and songs?
Is if it's true, and I think it is, that Greek traditions are all local, or at least they all start local. Take, for example, religion. Religion you cannot understand without seeing the way myth and ritual work out in a given locale. The more local things are, the more chance there is for competition. I think we moderns can be so shocked that Greek civilization features so much fighting within that civilization among different locales, but that has something to do with the diversity. The Greek civilization was not the civilization of a nation state. There were all these locales that were competing with each other and often warring with each other. Mm. I'm not saying this is ideal, but I'm saying it's a fact of life. It's a fact of history.
Right.
Yeah, we often think about the ancient Greeks, that we're learning about the ancient Greeks in general. I think when we, follow this course of material in the HeroesX, but really it's very much more localized. We're learning about specific city-states, and mostly Athens, I think. Greg, you don't highlight this a lot in your book, but most of the things that we're studying are filtered through an Athenian lens.
Yes, and the one thing that makes Athens exceptional, and I'm using exceptional and exceptionalism almost in a political sense, is the fact that Athens had kind of outgrown its prehistory and history as a city-state and became something bigger than a city-state onto itself. And already after 479 BCE was starting to dominate in a very big way other Greek cities, to the point where you could almost talk about an Athenian empire. At least you can for the 5th century, although the many reverses that happened towards the end of the 5th century eventually put the Athenian empire out of business, and Athens reverts to being simply a city-state. But my point is that if we look beyond Athens, we can see the localisms even more clearly.
I mean, I think these are very important clarifications as we think about the transition we'll be making in the next few hours of the project, right?
Yeah.
Into
Yes.
looking at really Athenian state theater is one way to think about it, right? I think that's a term that you've used. Am I saying that correctly?
You're saying it beautifully. I agree with how you said it, yes.
Well, yeah, no, that's your term. I just want to make sure I was getting it right. Okay, so those are important clarifications. You know, there is one other thread in the discussion board I was hoping we would talk about that has to do with the hours community members, many of them are thinking about now. I want to talk about the thread, and we talked about this ahead of time, the thread that makes a connection between the kind of advice that new writers are given and the idea of indicating, right? So this is a thread by L.W. Doyle, and the title of the thread is "Show, Indicate, Don't Tell, Simply Say."
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I thought that was actually a very interesting connection.
Yes. The idea of showing, I think, brings to life how important it is for somebody who communicates verbally to make sure that the person that you're communicating to can actually see what you're saying. A lot of times we do that, we make an attempt to show people something by saying nervously, you see, you see, you see. And it has to do with this urge, this drive to make somebody else see what you're seeing, and that the use of words is meant to make somebody else see what you see. In Greek, and this wonderful writer whose initials are L.W. and whose last name is Doyle, actually talks about the word seimino, which we can translate as indicate or show, and there are other words like that besides seimino, or to use the infinitive form seimainen. Another one I'm thinking about is apodeixis, Apodeixis, which is how Herodotus, the so-called father of history, starts his discourse. He says, this is the making public of the investigation or investigations of Herodotus of Halicarnassus. The word that we translate as making public is more literally showing, indicating, pointing out, going visual. And it's something that pervades all of Greek verbal art, not just poetry but prose, as we see even in the histories of Herodotus.
Yeah, I mean, Keith, I don't know if you have any reaction to it, but for me, I guess what really struck me was the sense of, you know, what was really effective in ancient Greek song culture is really what's so effective today, right? I mean, that there's something so inherently important about that aspect of conveying a message, about, you know, engaging someone in a narrative, about how much more powerful it is when you can do that.
Right. When you tell someone, it seems to me, this is my reaction, you're closing off the meaning. You're telling them what the meaning is. Whereas when you show it, you're showing something that's open to interpretation, and that's much more alive as a narrative.
Right. I think that's beautiful. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Okay. So, Greg, as we're talking about narratives, I'm hoping you can share a little bit about what you experienced on your recent trip to Greece. So as our communities may or may not know, so this was that spring break week at Harvard, and so that's why HeroesX took a spring break, both to help community members catch up if they wanted to, just take a breather, also invite you to Hour 25, but you were away in Greece, and I'm hoping you could just share a little bit about your reaction to the things that you have experienced, either new or repeated experiences in Greece this time around. What's standing out for you?
Well, let me preface what I say by addressing you, dear Claudia, and you, dear Keith, while wearing your hats as editors of Classical Inquiries, which is that weekly posting that usually involves posting by myself as well. What I'm preparing for the two of you, and I hope to hand it in on Wednesday, is a write-up of everything I thought was important. Well, not everything I thought was important, but 3 things that I thought were important at each site that I visited, along with my fellow travelers in the travel study program that was sponsored by the Harvard Alumni Association, and that was helped along by the Center for Hellenic Studies people in Greece. If I can start with Sunday, which would have been 1 week plus 1 day ago, so not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before that. There was something about it. I said to the people who accompanied me as we went through the giant portal that leads into the top surface of the Acropolis, I said to them, if you were to do this in the 5th century BCE, what you'd be seeing facing you, and this would be an amazing first impression, would be a gigantic bronze statue of the goddess Athena that is guarding the Acropolis. Pausanias, when he talks about sailing to Athens, and there he is crossing the Aegean, sailing through the Cyclades, and eventually, I shouldn't have said sailing through the Cyclades. Let's just say he's crossing the Aegean, and then he's rounding Cape Sunion, and he looks up and he can actually see the Acropolis of Athens all the way off to the distance, and he can actually see the spear point of the bronze statue of Athena that I was asking my fellow travelers to imagine when we entered the top space of the Acropolis. So that was one thing that thrilled me, maybe more than ever before. And then, why don't I focus on maybe one thing as we wind our way around the Parthenon and look down the walls of the Acropolis to ground level below. What do we see? To our south, we see the Theater of Dionysus. So what a thrill it is to look down and actually see the place where the premieres of so many of the dramas of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides took place. That's something that's irreplaceable. And when people have never been to Greece before and then they see this, that is a first impression that cannot be surpassed, I think. And then I also love to say to people, well, you still see at least the remnants, the foundations of the Theater of Dionysus where Athenian State Theater happened. But you know what else you see? Well, or what you don't see is to the left of that, you see at least the spot where the Odeum of Pericles used to stand. And if my argumentation holds, that was the venue for the performance of the Homeric Iliad and the Odyssey in a kind of renewal celebration every 4 years at the so-called Great Festival of Athens, the Great Pan-Athenaeum.
Wow.
So that was something.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
I love it.
Because we talk about the say, literary or textual connections between Homer and the tragedies. And here we are contemplating a geographic co-location,
Exactly.
I guess we could say.
Exactly, and there they were, right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd be
And
like literally like visually thinking about Homer as you're watching a tragedy because it's right there.
yes, it's right there. It's just so overpoweringly impressive, I think. Or another one of these impressions is when you're going through the gateway uh, to the top area of the Acropolis, and this is, of course, the entrance, the main entrance, and the only official entrance, which is to the west of the Acropolis. If you turn around, the nearest hill is the so-called Pnyx, which is where the Athenian assembly met for its deliberations. And of course, millions of tourists go to the Acropolis, but only hundreds or dozens go to the Pnyx. And yet they're organically facing each other, the Acropolis and the Pnyx. And so you can actually see from the Acropolis where Athenian democracy was in full force and action during the deliberations of the so-called assembly.
Is that where the Oresteia ends? Where the jury...
I know what you're thinking about. Well, that's another thing. When you go down the way you came up through the west entrance, which now is your west exit, and you walk down the hill, or the elevation to ground level, there, looming above you, is a much smaller hill called the Hill of Ares, the Areopagus.
Right.
And at the foot of that hill is the Cave of the Eumenides. And that is where, shall we say, the Furies reached an accommodation with the goddess Athena and became participants in what I like to say is a condominium of the goddess above and the Furies below at the cave. So again, an organic link that ties the Acropolis together with so many other things, because now we're entering the Agora, the so-called marketplace, and as you enter, you pass by on your left the Cave of the Eumenides. It's pretty good.
It's amazing. I mean, as you were talking about this, I mean, the first thing I think of is, wow, we really have to put a GoPro camera on Greg for next time. You know, Greg?
Oh, I'd love it.
Yes, that's what we should do next time. But, you know, I think it really drives home, I think, just a sense of the importance of metonymy, right? The way that you help us think about it in terms of processions. I mean, these things that we are talking about are just one right after the other, right next to each other when you get there, right?
I'm so glad you used the magic word metonymy, and let me quickly redefine it in case somebody out there forgot the working definition. And it's an easy one. If metaphor is expressing meaning by way of substituting something that's alien to something that is not alien. For example, if I say the claw of the north wind, I'm substituting something that is alien to the north wind, which is the claw of an animal, but that's what gives the construction its poetic value. So if metaphor is substituting something alien, then metonymy is connecting something familiar, something not alien. And that's what the whole space of the Acropolis and everything around it, and for that matter, the concept of Athena, is all about. It's connecting one familiar thing to another familiar thing to another familiar thing, and you really feel at home. I'm saying at home because the Greek word that we translate as familiar is oikeios, which means feeling like home. That is what familiarity is, feeling like home. And metonymy is making connections that make you feel at home.
That's awesome. Okay, Greg, I'm going to take this to another place. You're not expecting this, but so this week on Thursday, we are going to have an open house discussion with Susan Edmonds, right?
Oh, wow. Wow.
Right? And we're going to be talking about picturing Homer. Oh, no, we're going to be talking about weaving, but she's going to be talking about weavers as heroes. And in preparation for that, she sent us a link to a video.
Wow.
I'm going to share it with you too, but let's share it with the whole community, actually. She shares a link to some videos, some images, but the other thing she shares is a link to a blog post, and in the blog post, the weaver talks about how when she sits down at the loom, it's like coming home.
Wow, that's
right?
perfect. That's perfect. Because weaving is an exercise in metonymy, as I certainly argue that till I'm blue in the face in that book, Masterpieces of Metonymy. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I think it's just about time for us to sign off. But unless, Keith, did you have some thoughts? I didn't mean to cut you off. No? Okay.
Nothing's coming to mind right now.
Okay, good. So, just reminding everyone, so we're going to be picking up with ours, where are we, 16 and 17? This coming week they will be released, and then so we'll be in the world of tragedy, a totally different viewpoint of the hero. So I'm looking forward to our next office hours. Please look for the email about hour 25. I hope you will join us by registering. If you have any problems registering, please email me at hero@chs.harvard.edu. And I think that's really all the news.
Well, I'm just so happy to be reunited with Claudia and Keith, and be on the lookout for a pretty big text that I'm going to be sending to you two, wearing your hats as editors of Classical Inquiries.
Yes, and so we can share those links with everyone too for Classical Inquiries.
I hope so. It's really quite fitting, I think, if we could somehow share the conversations we had during this hour, which I so enjoyed, with the write-ups of what Greg did this past week.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Greg and Keith, for joining me, and I look forward to next week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.